Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and my fellow Rotarians. Before I call our president to officially call the meeting to order, here are just some house rules. Please be advised that microphones of non-program participants will be muted to help keep the background noise to a minimum.
Philippine political landscape.
May we request the visiting Rotarians and guests to please type in the comment box your name, your club or affiliation, or the RC Makati Rotarian who invited you to participate in this meeting, so we can properly acknowledge you later in the program. For our open forum, after the talk of the speaker, in case you want to ask a question, please use the raise hand button or simply notify us by typing in the comment box. Alternatively, you may want to type in your question and we will try to accommodate it during the question and answer portion. Lastly, please don't leave yet after the response of our president, as we will have our group photo op with our speaker. So welcome again to this afternoon's meeting of the Rotary Club of Makati.
Bow our heads in the presence of the Lord. Let us pray. As we gather here today as members of Rotary, we pray that we're ever mindful of opportunities to render our service to fellow citizens and to our community, keeping in mind always the enduring values of life, exerting our efforts in those areas and on those things upon which future generations can build with confidence. Let us continue to strive to make a better world. All this we ask in the mighty name of Jesus. Amen.
We're the Rotary Club of Makati, and together we stand proud. We are leaders with integrity, always ready to serve you as a team, always living by the four-way test, building goodwill and peace along the way, giving hope to the world. With the Rotary Club of Makati, prepared to aid our fellow men, as through Rotarians we live to lead. We believe in service of ourselves, and this is why we succeed. We're the Rotary Club of Makati, and together we stand proud. We are leaders with integrity, always ready to serve humanity, always living by the four-way test, building goodwill and peace along the way, giving hope to the world. We're the Rotary Club of Makati, giving hope to the world. The Rotary Club of Makati.
May I ask now all of my fellow Rotarians to join me in the recitation of the four-way test. Is it the truth?
Is it the truth?
Is it the truth?
Is it fair to all concerned?
Is it fair to all concerned?
Will it build goodwill and better friendships?
Will it build goodwill and better friendship?
Thank you. Let's go to the greetings of our birthday and anniversary celebrants for this week. You know that this week is a unique week because we have only one celebrant, and that is our past first Anne, Angela Kila, on September 12th. We proceed to a classification talk to be given by Rotarian Tetu Garcia.
Good afternoon, my fellow Rotarians. My name is Tetu Garcia. I think I'm the newest member of the club. I was inducted into the club in June, and I was invited by PP Reggie Nolido. I was inducted at the clubhouse in the presence of PP Bimbo and PDG Tony Kila. I am a banker by profession. BN Amro Cagayan. I am a product of the public school system, having been graduated from the University of the Philippines. I am married. I am married to Risa Gallardo Garcia, and coincidentally, PP Reggie was also a sponsor and our ninong in that wedding. But don't get me wrong, PP Reggie is not that old. We just wanted to get ninongs and ninangs who are dear to us. No? That was a conscious effort with my wife, and we have been blessed with one daughter, an 11-year-old daughter. Her name is Anya, and I'm hoping that I can be more active and be more to participate more in the various activities of the club. That's it. Thank you very much. And I hope to meet all of you because these are really the new normal. No? I've just I'm seeing everyone in Viber and in Zoom. No? And I love reading the Viber group, the banter between the members. I just enjoy reading them. So I hope to be able to participate one of these days soon. Thank you.
I'd like to welcome our visiting Rotarians and guests. For the Perfect Vision presidents who are with us this afternoon, we have Bruce Albabidi from the Rotary Club of E-Club of Global City, Roderick Ginto of RC Las Piñas, Loreto Samaniego of RC Las Piñas Camino Real, Richard Carino of RC Makati Gems, Christy Blandina Aldave, Peter Manzano, Sophia Zoe, Denise, and Mark Anthony Manzano. We have Reno Alfonso, and Reginald Yu. So welcome to our visiting Rotarians and guests. And thank you for attending our meeting this afternoon.
Here's an update on the activities we'll be doing the past weeks and what we expect to be doing in the coming weeks. Last August 26, we joined a voters, specifically the youth. And after listening to the insights shared to us by Senator Kiko Pangilinan on August 4, where he shared to us a survey that 7 million youth voters failed to register and vote in the 2019 elections, our club's leadership thought that this is something we can work on, as it has a great impact on our society. Add to this the 3 million additional eligible voters for May 2022. We shall be focusing our campaign for the registration of these 10 million young voters. We shall be forging partnerships with the other clubs in the district, and so far we already have about 43 Rotary clubs who have signified their joining us in this endeavor. We expect to sign a MOA with our partner clubs next week, September 22. We have lined up activities for this project like production of voters registration campaign materials, launching of the My Vote, My Voice website, voters registration caravans in coordination with COMELEC, organizing concerts for the youth to drum up the need for them to register, and a nationwide motorcade towards the end of voters registration to mark the final leg of the campaign, which we shall be presenting to our partner clubs for the identification of club roles and for tasking. We hope to extend this campaign nationwide, and we shall be involving the other 9 districts in the country. Now, this project will necessarily involve our young Rotary leaders. That's why we have made an appeal to our interactors and Rotary actors during the district assembly last Saturday for them to participate and be active, not just in the voters registration part of the project, but likewise in the voters education and poll watching activities, which shall happen mostly during the term of P.E. Louie. Finally, next week, September 24, that will be Thursday at 7 p.m., we shall be co-hosting with 11 other Rotary clubs in the district with those secrets.
Thank you very much, President Peter, for updating us on the club's activities. At this juncture, I'd like to call on past President Tito Panlilio to introduce our guest speaker for this afternoon.
Good afternoon. Am I heard? I am muted myself just now. Can I be heard by everyone?
Yes, sir.
Okay, good. All right, good afternoon and welcome to all our fellow Rotarians, visiting Rotarians, and guests. I'm honored and pleasured to introduce our guest speaker for today. He is not a stranger to me and to many of us in the club because personally he was a classmate at the Ateneo College Department where Attorney Nonong, may I just call you Nonong, Attorney Nonong, graduated as a math major. But to everyone's surprise, he then took up law at the University of the Philippines. Normally, as they say, lawyers don't make good mathematicians. But in this case, here is a mathematician who became a top-notch lawyer. He was also, that's why he became a campus figure earlier on at the Ateneo. During the height of student activism, he led the Ateneo College Department during those tumultuous days as the student council president, the year when martial law was declared by Mr. Marcos. Of course, he went on to become also the student government president of the UP School of Law. Well, on the lighter side, perhaps I interacted a lot more with Nonong, Attorney Nonong, as a basketball cager during our intramural days. He was one of my basketball players when we won the championship in the intramural competition at the Ateneo. Remember that, Attorney Nonong?
Yes.
At any rate, let me continue. In his professional life, again, he became an enabler, very enterprising when they founded the Villarasa Cruz Marcelo Ang-Angco Law Office sometime in the early 80s. They pursued the progress of this law firm to eventually make it one of the top law firms in the country. During the presidency of President Fidel Ramos, Attorney Nonong became a legal advisor of past President Fidel. And then during the presidency of Gloria Arroyo, this is where Attorney Nonong became very active. Attorney Nonong led a quiet career, life. he pursued his law. Attorney Nonong decided to gather some of his loyal partners, and they put up their own law firm and split from the Villarasa law firm. And they've set up now the Cruz, Marcelo, and Tena Francia Law Office. So without further ado, I am pleased and honored to welcome to our club my classmate, my friend,
Peter Manzano of the Rotary Club of Makati, the moderator, Junjun Dairit, also one of our classmates with Tito during the first quarter storm in Ateneo, the officers and directors of the Rotary Club of Makati, guests, ladies and gentlemen. My short talk will consist of 4 parts. The first part is the last quarter storm. The second part is the transition period. And the third part is the campaign period. And the fourth is the May 2022 elections. I think the last quarter storm is coming, and it will be a perfect storm. It will be a dangerous mix of sickness and death, unemployment and hunger, a surge in corruption, political uncertainty, and social unrest. It is not helping that the handling of the present crisis is not going well. So the government released about 200 billion for the first tranche of the SAP, which covered mostly about 18 million families. So the government needs to release about 200 billion a month to feed the unemployed in the country. And by most estimates, by October, hunger in the country will start increasing because, as admitted by the government, it is running out of money. After this, in every administration, the last 18 months of every administration, for those who have worked in government, will have personal experience with this, is that the last 18 months is a transition period. During this transition period, there is a surge in corruption. Yung parang mentality, last 2 minutes na. Ito na lang ang huling pagkakataon na kumita. So, kanya-kanyang sagwan ito, kanya-kanyang kurakot. The last 18 months of every administration, nagsusurge. Ito, aggravated ito by 2 things. Clearly, itong crisis natin, itong pandemic, which is one of the most serious crises we've ever met. And second, yung kitang-kita, significantly diminished yung physical capacity ng presidente. So, nakikita mo, nag-uumpisa na. Yung Senate report, for example, documents the massive corruption at PhilHealth. Can you think about it? One of the frontline agencies in solving this pandemic, PhilHealth, imbes na tinututukan na maghanap ng solusyon doon sa problema, ang inaasikaso ay magnakaw ng pera. At saka pa nito, widespread. So, andun lahat doon sa Senate report. Another thing that defies logic, for example, is putting white sand in Manila Bay. It's a criminal waste of money when you don't have enough money just for the PPEs in the UP-PGH Manila. Kulang na nga yung pera, gagastos ka ng 370 million pesos for white sand in Manila Bay. So itong transition period na ito, the last 18 months, lalala pa ito. Let me tell you an anecdote that was told to me over dinner by Renato de Villa late last year. When President Ramos was going to undergo a carotid operation in Makati Medical Center during the latter part of his term, President Ramos called Rene de Villa and told him to go to Erap Estrada, who was then the vice president, to brief him on the status of the government and to help him in the transition to a new government, just in case something happened to President Ramos. I would argue that this is the responsible thing to do. A president who might suffer incapacity should provide for a smooth constitutional succession, whether or not the vice president is in the other party. Ito yung dapat na responsableng gawin kung sino man nakaupo sa Malacanang. I am hoping against hope that if something happens, this is going to be the responsible road taken by the government. Another worrisome event that's will follow a constitutional succession, and that they will not entertain a revolutionary government, because it is clear to responsible and reasonable persons that taking that path will aggravate the situation, the crisis, more than stabilize it. Then in October 2021 to May will come the campaign period. During this time, there'll be, I predict, a realignment of forces. People will be putting their finger in the air and see where the wind blows. Alam mo naman Pilipino eh. And Isko Moreno. The fourth part is the 2022 elections. I think this will be a significant part of the solution to our crisis. Let me digress a bit. I think if Joe Biden wins in the US, it will have shown that there's a political shift to the center, that voters are beginning to realize that incompetence and corruption can directly affect them, directly harm them. In fact, can cause them sickness and death, and they can lose their jobs. Mas naiintindihan na ng tao na importante pala ang presidente. Before the pandemic, the odds in Las Vegas was that Donald Trump was going to win. But I think now the betting is that 10-1, Joe Biden is going to win in November 3. In the November 3 US elections. So this means that the political shift is that voters will look again for the conventional qualities of a president. Qualities. But I think people will look for these qualities again, realizing that importante pala kung sinong ibinoboto ko. It could cost me my life, it could cost me my job. My prediction is that ang tingin ko, yung mga botante, voters will always experiments. in the Philippines, we have experimented. Marcos and martial law was a bad experiment. And after that came a woman president. Era Estrada was a voter experiment. The popularity of a screen actor. After him came another woman president. I predict that with this political shift to the center, to normalcy, to the conventional qualities of a leader, I predict that the next president of the Philippines will also be a woman. I will expand my thoughts during the question and answer forum. Thank you very much.
I have one question here. Attorney Nonong, this is from Ramon Garcia, one of our members. What are your thoughts about securing our domestic security and international territorial protection?
I think on everybody's mind is weighing, will China interfere in our elections? There's a big temptation that China might interfere in our elections. And I think it is important that the next administration, the next government should proceed with a balanced foreign policy. The paramount interest should be the national interest. And that includes defending our sovereignty over the West Philippine Sea. We have won the arbitration, which clearly demolished the 9-dash line of China. We should convince the whole world to abide by this. In fact, I think there's some quarters who are thinking of bringing this to the General Assembly, which constitutes about 190 members of the United Nations. We should push this for in the General Assembly so that this arbitration is respected. I think the next government should participate in the freedom of navigation exercises. When I was in the DND, there was a proposal by PACOM to use US ships, but with Filipino soldiers, and include Benham Rice has this attention. China has given attention to it. So we should stand up and fight for these rights. There are many options. You don't have. War is not our only option. I think we should win the public world opinion on this. And I think voters vote for a candidate who will defend more strongly our sovereignty over the West Philippine Sea. And all of us should be very wary of any Chinese interference into the elections. It is very tempting on their part to do so. Thank you.
Yeah, sorry. I have a question here from Alasdair Thompson of RC Makati West. In recent polling by one of our members, Senator Manny Pacquiao came out as the most likely winner of an election if that were held today. What is your view on the impact of Senator Pacquiao on the election process?
Manny Pacquiao is popular, but in the surveys that I've seen, he comes in 6th or 7th. So he's not yet a threat. I think he'll be going for the vice presidency position, I think. And I have this optimism borne out by the shift in the United States, that voters will realize that
Can you hear me, Atty. Nono?
yes, I can hear you now.
Okay. Do you think Defense Secretary Lorenzana or the entire Department of National Defense, are they doing enough to advance the interest of our country with regards to West Philippine Sea, especially your predecessor, Lorenzana?
Lorenzana is a professional soldier. He was when I was the Secretary of National Defense. And if I remember clearly, I think I was the secretary who extended his stay in Washington, D.C. on the request of Senator Ramon Magsaysay Jr. because I think Lorenzana was an aide of President Ramon Magsaysay. I think within his constraints, he's trying to do his best. But the architect of foreign policy is Malacanang. So he has some restraints. You can see that he's trying his best to push back those restraints. I think more can be done to assert our sovereignty over the West Philippine Sea. Can you imagine we won the arbitration? Why should we not push public opinion to help us enforce the arbitral ruling? I am glad that I hear that some quarters are going to bring it up to the General Assembly. And I'm almost sure that an overwhelming majority in the General Assembly will support the enforcement of the arbitral ruling. And I think the next Secretary of National Defense should explore the feasibility of something of a joint patrol that PACOM was proposing before. Having US Navy ships with Filipino sailors doing freedom of navigation exercises in the South China Sea. And the final point, he has repeated, to his credit, Secretary Lorenzana has repeatedly said that he will support the constitutional success, which is a good thing in a time of uncertainty like this. The Secretary of National Defense has a very important role in a crisis time like this. Thank you.
Jun, I have a question. Okay, anyway, go ahead.
Can I just ask a question directly? Hi, Nonong, Attorney Nonong, I'm Bimbo Mills. I'd just like to ask, is there any legal or otherwise process by which some congressmen seem to be wanting to justify that the president can choose his own replacement in case he gets sick or he dies or the successor? Is there any basis for that, or that's such a crazy attempt at Congress or whoever was started this idea?
I think the congresswoman you're referring to withdrew it after the backlash because that's totally unconstitutional. That's outside the Constitution. The president don't get to choose who his successor is. It has to be it's very clear and explicit in the Constitution that if in case something happens to the president, the duly elected vice president takes over.
Okay. Thank you. I guess there's still some crazy people around in Congress. Thank you.
Jun,
may I ask a question? Jun?
I have a question here from David Aboitis. What data are you using to back up your claims on voters being tired? Aren't approval ratings still very high?
The data I've been looking at is the elections in the US. That with this pandemic, a populist president like Donald Trump has continuously lost support because of the incompetence of handling a crisis. Mostly that's the data I'm looking at. And secondly, at the height of the popularity of President Ramos, for example, he was about plus 60%. And then the floor contemplation event happened. His popularity plunged to minus 2% in several weeks. So surveys are a snapshot in time. The last quarter storm is coming. Starting October, I think there's going to be more and more hunger. You need 200 billion pesos to feed about over 10 million families. And if you look at our loans, it's getting too much. And when you don't have the 200 billion a month to feed people, there'll be dissatisfaction and social unrest. So that is worrisome. And I think the security forces are worried about that also. It's very hard to handle a hungry population infused with a public health emergency. It will result in a surge in crime, social unrest, and other.
7, I think. Are you at liberty to share with us what's the ranking from 1 to 6? Thank you.
The top 3 that I've seen on this leak survey is that number 1 is Isko Moreno, and then Sara Duterte, and then Lenny Robredo. They're about 1 or 2 points apart. And then there's a big difference. I think the number 4 comes is Grace Poe, and then somebody else, and then somewhere there about 7 is Manny Pacquiao. So I'm not worried about him yet.
Thank you. I'm quite surprised that Isko has a very good top ranking at this point in time.
He seems to have done a good job in Manila, in contrast to the previous mayor. But I have my reservations about a mayor running the whole country again. The skill sets of a mayor are entirely different from running a country with a large population like the Philippines. The problems are more complex and are different. So it's important to have a experience in national government before you become president. To me, that's very important. It's like shifting one manager from one industry to another, as you would know, George.
Yeah.
It takes a while to learn the ropes.
Yeah, I know. What do you think? What do you think would be the key points, to consolidate the voters? In some occasions, I mentioned to some of our fellow Rotarians, I said I was quite surprised that during the last election, the candidates of the LP, none of them got in. Many of them, among them, are more qualified, than some of the other side. So what do you think would be the battle cry kamo, to consolidate, the voters, of which you mentioned competency is one. We cannot argue about that, But in politics, it's more like for Donald Trump, yung battle cry niya, it's all about for the Americans. We want to make America great again. So in your mind, what do you think? Thank you.
My thinking, George, is dapat maipaliwanag natin sa tao na yung qualifications ng presidente, especially experience, competence, honesty, hard work, has a direct effect on their life. Mas madali nila maintindihan ngayon eh. Kasi, for example, who among you think that Secretary Duque is doing a good job? If he were running your company, would you continue him in office given his track record. So mas madaling ipaliwanag sa tao eh. For example, itong inilagay nila sa PhilHealth na bago, it's like a square peg in a round hole. Eh.
MBI.
Para yung police, kukunin mo para magpatakbo ng hospital. Magkaibang skill sets eh. Di ba kailangang ipaliwanag ito sa tao na importante yung boring but conventional qualifications of a president kasi may epekto sa iyo eh. Ngayon, during good times, ang hirap ipaliwanag ito eh. When everything is good and rosy, maski na anong gawin mo, maski anong gawin mo, hindi makikinig ang tao eh. Kagaya si Donald Trump eh, nung maganda ang takbo sa Amerika, maski na anong gawin niya, wala, Teflon eh. Pero nung pumasok itong pandemic sa Amerika, yun lang ayaw niya magsuot ng mask eh. The fact that he doesn't want to wear a mask, he's been attacked by Republicans and by scientists.
Right.
So ako, yun ang pinaka-importante, ipaliwanag natin na yung boring, na conventional, na normal. What we need are normal leaders now eh. They might be boring, like many of us in the Rotary. We're boring but we're hardworking. We deliver. Hindi naman tayo mananalo sa eleksyon eh, kasi boring tayo eh. Pero masipag tayo, effective tayo, competent tayo, lumalaki yung ating mga pinapatakbo. Ganon din sa national fund eh. Sa national government. Sa akin yun ang dapat dikdikin natin eh. Na importante na merong qualifications yung manalo para maiahon tayo. I'm sure, I don't have to tell you, all of you know that we are in a deep hole and we are going to be in a deeper hole. It will be so hard to crawl out of this hole. So kailangan mo talaga yung masipag, marunong, may eksperyensya, honest. I'm not looking for the perfect person, but those basic, yung normal lang, normal. Papasok ka sa, you show up. Papasok ka sa opisina mo ng 8 o'clock, aalis ka ng 10 o'clock. Normal yun eh, boring, pero araw-araw. Like, look at Andrew Cuomo sa New York. Every day meron siyang press conference ng alas 10 ng umaga. And he presents the data on the board, scientific based, tapos maliwanag yung plano kung anong gagawin. In fact, importante na the Rotary Club of Makati, dapat in addition to your voter registration, tumulong kayo na gumawa ng 100-day plan eh. Assuming there's a new government, 100-day plan, anong dapat nating gawin para ma-improve natin itong ekonomiya, mapakain natin yung tao, mabigyan natin ng trabaho yung tao. Hindi madali, ang hirap eh. Yung 100-day ko na ito. Kasi palalim yung butas. I'm sure all of us are experiencing this and everybody is trying to survive. And all of these things are happening at the same time. Pero importante kung makatulong tayo. Kasi once in a while, I was executive secretary under kay Arroyo eh. And importante na araw-araw, kung meron yung mas maliit na crisis, araw-araw kang binimiting mo lahat, kino-coordinate mo, ganun-ganon eh. Importante yun eh. Yung tried and tested na hard work eh.
Yeah.
Na hahanapin mo yung problema, define the problem, look for the solution. Araw-araw yun. 8 to 10 yun, 8 to 10, araw-araw. Wala yung mga magic pill eh. Ako, mahirap naman na intayin lang natin yung vaccine, ano? Marami pa tayong magagawa. Isang checking ko, isang distrito sa Caloocan, ang tracing dapat 1:23 eh. Sabi ni Mayor Benji Magalong. Yung isang distrito, for example, sa Caloocan is 1:5 lang eh. Doon sa katabi niyang distrito sa Quezon City, mas mataas, 1:18. So, pero they go back and forth eh. So, hindi pa rin na after nag-lockdown tayong 6 months, hindi pa rin natin na-level off yung yung infection. So, goes back to the si Secretary Duque ba i-hire nyo para patakbuhin yung kumpanya nyo? Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
June.
We have a question from past President Tito Panlilio.
Okay, Attorney Nonong, you mentioned we're quite intrigued by your statement that the next president may be a woman. Of course, there are two leading candidates or leading prospects in the survey that you just mentioned. Which is that woman, in your opinion?
Personal opinion ko lang ito. I think it is my citizen's duty, like I hope many of you, that I will use most of my efforts and resources that I can. As part of the solution is to campaign for Leni Robredo. All I want, mula nung matagal na rin tayo dito sa gobyerno pababa ang expectations ko Dati, nung unang araw ko sa Malacanang, I wanted to change the world. The second day, I just wanted to change the Philippines. The next day, I just wanted to change one small thing for the better. So ako, gusto ko lang normal na tao Yung merong competence, may experience, merong honesty, merong hard work, may respect for the law, may respect for human rights, may compassion, merong genuine desire to lift the poverty level of the country. Sa edad natin, Tito, hindi naman na tayo pwedeng magpalit ng citizenship. Hindi na tayo pwedeng pumunta sa Canada. Dito na tayo talaga. So, ako nakikita ko, to be part of the solution, ako mangangampanya ako para kay
unequivocal support.
There's a question from Attorney Howie Calleja. Are you aware of Leni Robredo's plans or actions to unite a solid opposition?
5414. I don't know it directly, but I've worked with her. I've interacted with her, and my assessment is that she will not decline the call of duty. I think she's the kind of person, if there's somebody else who can do the job, I think she will give way. But if she has to do it, I think in honor of her deceased husband, I think she will do it. She will run for the presidency, I think, if she has to do it. Same thing happened when she was vice president. She didn't really want to run for vice president, but she was convinced by a lot of people to run. And I think she was polling at something like 5%. So she knows how to campaign. So, but my main point is that we need to go back to the conventional qualities of a leader. Tama na muna yung experiment. Nag-experiment na tayo. Martial law, nag-experiment tayo. Doesn't work. Nag-experiment tayo ng movie actor. Also doesn't work. So balik tayo dun sa mga time-tested na qualifications. Especially with this crisis. Hindi pwedeng mag-take a chance now. We have to crawl out of this hole. Medyo I'm less optimistic than Bernie Villegas that it will be a V-shaped recovery. So mas matagal ito. So kailangan mong kumbaga sa sa kumpanya natin, kailangan nating kumayod. Lahat tayo kailangan kumayod And I'm sure all of you will be helping out feed your hungry neighbors. There'll be a lot of them.
I'm sure a lot of you are keeping your employees on the payroll maski hindi mo na kailangan para lang makatulong. I'm sure each and every one of us is trying to help cope with this pandemic, each in our own way. So, malalim ito at matagal. Thank you.
Doon, George again. Should we go back to a two-party system?
That would be better, pero matagal pa yun,
Saka
George.
yung mga tanggalin natin mga party list.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe we should.
I think
Pero
we
matagal
should.
pa yan. Hopefully, ako ang kuwang ko itong 2022 Sana napaka-tempting baka makialaman China, di ba? So that's one tempting thing. Number two, yun nga kailangan yung election will be part of the solution. Na the process produces a candidate with conventional time-tested qualities. I think it will take 3 years or more to crawl out of this situation we're in. I'm sure this is unprecedented. I'm sure all of you know. Grabe ito, hindi ba? Dumaan tayo nung 83 to 86, di ba? Marami sa atin dumaan to 83 to 86. Mahirap na yun. Dumaan tayo nung 2008, 2009. Mukhang mas matindi ito Thank you.
I have a question.
Well, we have so many questions that have been typed in, so I will try to consolidate them so that at least a part of your question can be answered. At this time, can we turn over the floor to Jun Arceo? He has a question.
Hello. Hello. Nonong.
Hello, Jun. Long time no see.
Nonong.
Hello.
Knowing that you are very close to GMA, and GMA is very close to Duterte, and she has very strong influence to Mr. Duterte and to a lot of politicians. Who do you think will she be endorsing in the next election?
I was very close to Gloria Arroyo, pero matagal na kaming hindi when we had a falling out, matagal na kaming hindi nagkikita, di ba? May falling out kami because she wanted to declare martial law. And my training in Ateneo and UP was to work within the Constitution, and which I told her. So that was our falling out. So hindi na kami masyado nag-uusap. Pero knowing si GMA, I think she will follow the path where the wind blows. For survival, kung sino mananalo. So, importante yung kampanya ng 2022. That it produces a solution rather than another problem. So, ako, sa tingin ko si GMA, walang, sa politika naman, June, di ba? Walang permanent friends, walang permanent enemies. Only permanent interests. So, where the wind blows. Ganyan ang politika natin.
Okay.
We have a question from PDG Tony Kila.
I don't know.
Tony.
Do you see a rematch between Lenny and Bongbong?
Ang naririnig ko sa politika, parang ang nila na ticket is a Sara Escumoreno or Sara Bongbong. Parang gano'n ang naririnig ko na sa political grapevine. Parang yung mga Ilocano gusto nila Sara Bongbong. So baka may match up in a different way. Hindi ko alam kung sinong pipiliin na kung sakaling tatakbo si Lenny, hindi ko pa alam kung sinong pipiliin niyang vice presidente. So in a way there'll be a match up. Ako lang naman siguro wag na muna ulit na Marcos kasi yung experiment natin sa martial law was was not good. I mean, nabaon tayo sa utang, maraming namatay, maraming nakulong, maraming ng-torture. At may Supreme Court decision na, pinabalik yung, di ba, pinabalik yung $600 million sa kanila. So hanggang ngayon, hindi pa binabalik ni Bongbong yung yung perang kinuha sa public funds. Dapat ibalik muna siguro yun para maybe that can be the start of forgiveness. Dapat, di ba, sabi ng mga pare, bago ka humingi ng tawad, ibalik mo muna yung kinuha mong pera.
We have an interesting question here. This is from Imelda Reales. Attorney Nonong, why don't you run for the presidency?
Nung nasa DND ako, kinausap ako ni Max Sullivan . Sabi niya, Nonong, pinsan mo naman si Ramon Magsaysay Jr. Ninong ko sa binyag si Monching Magsaysay . Sabi niya, yung uncle mo, from Secretary of National Defense, tumakbong presidente, naging presidente. Sabi ko kay Max, nagtrabaho ko sa Malacanang na matagal . Mahirap maintindihan bakit anybody would want to be president. The stress. Nung nasa Malacanang ako, Diyos ko, alas 5 ng umaga, magre-ring yung telepono. Problema na. Alas 5 ng umaga, problema. Hanggang alas 10 ng gabi. Araw-araw, problema. I was thinking, why would anybody want to be president? You have to have some messianic complex or may pagka, yung sadomasochist ka . Kasi kung gusto mong negosyo, magtrabaho ka na lang sa private sector, okay din naman . Hindi mo naman madadala lahat yung perang yan when you depart from here, hindi mo naman madadala yan . Lalo na ngayon, malamang marami sa atin, di ba? Sa atin mga over 60, nasa house arrest tayo. Gives you perspective . Not all this material thing. I wanted to give back. The country has been good to me. Gusto ko lang mag-ibalik ng something back. Pero kung itutuloy ko sa politika, parang mahirap. Noon, nung nasa Malacanang ako, there were times, alas 10 ng gabi, nakikita ko si President Arroyo, drinking some cognac. Her stress levels were so high. Araw-araw yun. Mahirap maging presidente. Thank you.
We have a question from past President Fred Pascual, who just recently received his honorary doctorate from the University of the Philippines. Fred, can you ask your question?
Hi, Nonong. Long time no see.
Hello, Fred. Hi, long time no see.
No, I was just wondering that so far you have not touched on the Catholic Church, because historically the Catholic Church has played a very critical role, in addressing political challenges and situations. How have you assessed the capability of the Catholic Church, which is a major institution in our country, to do something about the upcoming last quarter storm and eventually influence the electorate in their choice for the next president in the 2022 election?
To see. Now is Bishop Ambo David, di ba? So I think that is a signal that the Catholic Church should help in educating voters that, one, competence directly affects them, and that the conventional quality of a candidate, it is better for a candidate to be praying to God rather than cursing God. Ako mas naniniwala ako na yung taong naniniwala sa Diyos, mas gagawa, the odds are mas gagawa ng tama eh. Kasi pag hindi ka naniniwala sa Diyos, the odds are stronger na na pwede kang gumawa ng hindi tama eh. So akin parang faithful yung election ni Bishop David. Leadership nila mukhang enlightened and professional. Kung meron tatakbo presidente ng Pascual, ito ay takbo natin presidente. Ito qualified.
Alam ko magkaibigan tayo.
Thank you. We have several questions here. One is regarding the reliability and the credibility of COMELEC, especially under this present dispensation. And the other one is, whether the military can be relied on to protect the peaceful transition of power. Should anything happen between now and 2022. So can you comment on those two items? Thank you.
First, the COMELEC is in charge of the computerized elections. That's where the danger is. But my experience is yung COMELEC, tinitingnan din kung sino mananalo eh. So, at saka tapos ang nagka-canvas ng votes is the joint congressional hearing, yung Senate at saka yung House. So, hindi ang COMELEC ang nagka-canvas ng votes ng pagka-presidente. Lawyer Ramos in the canvassing, the first joint canvassing in 1992 of the Senate and the House. Lahat ng House noon, mitra eh. Nung nakikita nilang panalo na si Ramos, naku, lahat na nagbo-volunteer na tumulong sa akin eh. So, that's politics eh. Yung military naman, Fred, Pascual, and I are still for a long time now members of yung AFP Multisectoral Governance Committee, which pushes reforms and transformation in the military. I think a large portion of the core of young officers talagang professional na. They will ensure a constitutional succession. At saka lately lumabas yung mga retired generals, mga who have very well respected in the military, si Secretary Rene de Villa, headed by Ed Adan.
Please unmute your microphone because it's coming into the meeting. I have a question here from Noel Canivel. Basically what he's asking is the United States meddling in our affairs with their actions in the South China Sea, considering that they should have been defending us while the Chinese were building their fortifications in our exclusive economic zone?
In the middle of South China Sea are international waters. Hindi naman sila nag-interfere doon sa ating exclusive economic zone. In the middle of China Sea may international waters. So doon, US, Australia, Great Britain, the EU, they sent 2 aircraft carriers. Yung latest nila, yung 10th aircraft carrier group nila, Ronald Reagan, that's their newest aircraft carrier group. And another one with a lot of destroyers. They're doing what they call freedom of navigation patrols. So they're going through the international waters. And I think one of these days there's going to be a confrontation between this freedom of navigation exercises and the Chinese Navy fleet. But comparatively, malayo pang China's Navy is so far away from the US. So importante nga ito. Ito nga, we should be joining that instead of keeping quiet. Kasi that helps us a lot eh. Tapos number 2, importante na rin na Vietnam, matapang ang Vietnam eh. Indonesia, Malaysia is taking the position to support the arbitral ruling. So, just to clarify, yung freedom of navigation sa international waters lang yun, Noel.
Here's a question from past President Rene Limhoco. He says that corruption is systemic and permeates all levels of government in this country. What are your thoughts on how the next administration can address this systemic problem of corruption?
As I said, the last 18 months, dyan nagsa-search ang corruption. But to answer the question, so next administration, I think I'm not a fan of Pinoy, but I think an important function of the president is appoint as many members of the cabinet that are honest. The more honest people you appoint, the less corruption there will be. So, like in our organizations, we fire dishonest people. Kasi hindi makakatulong sa organisasyon yun eh. So ang isa sa pinaka-importanting trabaho ng presidente ay mag-appoint ka ng honest and competent cabinet members. Nung nasa Malacanang ako, after Vicky Garcia, ako naging chairman ng screening committee. There's a screening committee in the palace which is very efficient eh. Pwede mong pinapacheck namin yung NBI checking, qualifications, etc. You interview yung peers niya kung what they think of him. So malaking bagay na if that functions. For example, if you compare Secretary Manolet Dairit, nakatrabaho ko si Manolet, nakatrabaho ko sa kabinete. Compared to Secretary Duque, si Secretary Duque noon ang head ng PhilHealth eh. Noong nagka-SARS epidemic, si Manolet knew what to do because may background na siya sa public health eh. At siyempre si Manolet may ulo, marunong, matino, masipag. I mean, 100 million na Pilipino tayo, hindi ka ba makakahanap ng mga ganyan? Makakahanap ka, no? Ang laki ng diferensya. Yung handling ng SARS at saka ngayon, no? Si Manolet at saka si Duque. Nung panahon ni Manolet, wala kang marinig maski na isang murmur ng corruption eh. In fact, isang kwento, ito marinig na rin ni Junjun Dairit. Isang cabinet meeting namin, nagpipresenta si Manolet. Bigla na nagalit si GMA. Sabi niya, Manolet, doon sa mga projects mo, bakit hindi mo inilalagay yung pangalan ko? Gusto namin tumawa sa kabinete. Pinagalitan niya talaga si Manolet. Kami tuwatawa kami. Si Manolet, di alam kung paano sasagot eh. Of course, he was doing the right thing, ano? So yan ang sagot ko eh. I-contrast mo si Manolet at saka si Duque, no? I think many of you kilala niyo si Manolet, no? He was a square peg in a square hole, ano? Eksakto. So magandang handling nung SARS epidemic, ano? Ngayon, yung buong Senado na hinihingi na palitan siya. Andiyan pa rin. So, to answer, importante mamili ka ng honest and competent people. And you have the screening committee, you have the apparatus of government that can find out who. You have to expand your Dapat on the merits eh. Hindi dahil kaibigan mo o kumpare mo o kababayan mo, maghanap ka cast a wide net. And get the best and the brightest. Kaya yan eh. Thank you.
I have a question here. Two questions actually, I'll combine them. One is regarding the penchant of voters to vote for those who are popular. And the other one is asking, you know, why can't we have people vote for those who are competent and qualified? So I guess maybe I put on my own question. Who do you think are the candidates who have both the quality of popularity and qualifications as well as competence? Thank you.
I think we have experimented with voting popular people, but I think this is a historic moment sa May 2022 na mas madaling ipaliwanag sa tao na mas importante yung competence and popularity. To put a contrast, for example, Frank Drilon versus Manny Pacquiao. Kung may kukunin ka na presidente ng organization mo, sinong kukunin mo magpatakbo? Si Frank Drilon o si Manny Pacquiao? Pero siyempre, mas popular si Manny Pacquiao kay Frank Drilon. Pero si Frank Drilon has served in the 3 branches of government, executive secretary, labor secretary, Senate president, senator. He's familiar with the judiciary. Mas pipili mo si Frank. Pero kung sa botohan, malamang hindi mananalo si Frank kay Manny Pacquiao eh. But sa akin, may historic moment eh, itong 2022. The pain and the hunger that this pandemic will cause, I think will give voters a pause and think na importante siguro na pumili ako na qualified na kandidato.
Thank you. We have one last question. We have only time for one last question. So this question comes from Ernestine Fernando. The question is, how can we more tangibly help educate and empower the voters so that they cast their votes wisely?
Hello, Bingbing. Let me start with an anecdote. Nung 2010 elections, may secret candidate si GMA, di ba? Na bisto na lang in the later part of the campaign. So tinanong ko yung sarili ko, ano yung magagawa ko para makatulong sa kampanya para hopefully mas matinong kandidato ang manalo. Noong 2010, mas bata-bata pa tayong lahat. We had a group eh. Kasama ko nun si Butch Abad, si Johnny Santos, si Dinky Suliman, si Cesar Purisima pa. Sama-sama sa amin paminsan-minsan. So araw-araw umikot kami ng bawat probinsya. Hindi ko nga masabayan itong si Butch Abad at si Dinky Suliman eh. Ako nun, mga a few days, tapos babalik ako magpahinga sa Manila, tapos pupunta ako. So inikot namin, halos lahat ng probinsya inikot namin, including Batanes. So ang suggestion ko, there'll be historic moment eh. Kailangan natin talaga ng maka-elect ng competent, honest, etc. Yung qualified na presidente sa 2020. So ako, yung mga may inclination, maggawa kayo ng grupo. I'm sure, for example, member ka ng sorority, member ka ng UP Law. Organize a nationwide network to help voters choose a qualified candidate. Ang tingin ko mas makikinig ngayon eh. Kasi masasaktan itong mga botante ngayon eh. Maraming masasaktan eh. Kung minsan di ba? Pain is a good teacher. Pag nasaktan ka, mas mag-iisip ka na paano ba ang solusyon dito. Diba? Thank you, Bingbing.
Okay. Thank you, Attorney Nono. We have come to the end of our open forum. I hope we have done justice to all those who asked their questions and typed it in. We couldn't ask everyone's question, but we tried our best. So at this point, I'd like to turn over the floor to our President, Peter Manzano, for his response.
Thank you, VP Junjun. Listening to our speaker and how we intelligently discussed the intricate but certainly interesting political landscape of our country, I can't help but recall how I first met him. It was in September 2009 when I first Attorney Avelino Cruz Jr. or Nonong as he is fondly called by his friends and his fraternity brothers. Oh, by the way, our good friends, Attorney Boy Reyno and Attorney Lucien Sayuno are with us on Zoom. It was at Park House along EDSA. And as soon as I saw our speaker, I introduced myself to him, knowing that he is a Luisian like myself, he being a graduate of St. Louis Boys High School in Baguio City. We were all gathered that day to discuss our role as lawyers in the political campaign of the Aquino Rojas presidential tandem, especially since it was the first time the presidential election was to be conducted using the automated election system. Since the system was new then, there were a lot of doubts, apprehensions, and even trepidations that the elections might be rigged using the PCOS machines. But as soon as Attorney Cruz started discussing the nitty-gritty of how the election was to be conducted, I said to myself, this is a man who knows what he is talking about. Our speaker has methodically analyzed our political situation, the challenges we are all facing, and what he calls the last quarter storm, a perfect storm characterized by economic turmoil, unemployment, hunger, and political uncertainty. He has provided us his insights on what to expect during the 18-month transition period, where there could be a surge of corruption, as what we are already witnessing in the PhilHealth and the White Sand issues, and that things could get worse. This is aggravated by the pandemic we are experiencing and the physical condition of the president. We also discussed the possible effects of the US presidential elections on the mindset of Filipinos on how they perceive of what a president should be. We may be seeing a return to the conventional leader, an honest, competent, intelligent, experienced, capable, hardworking, and who may be considered as a boring leader, but one who will really serve and deliver. As a nation in search of a better future, as mentioned earlier by our speaker, we have seen how the people have experimented with different types of leaders that they think can better respond to their needs. Rightly or wrongly, the people really deserve the leaders they vote into office. 20 months from now, we shall be going back to the polling places where we shall be given another chance to decide on our future and to set the direction of our nation. An aphorism mostly credited to the writer and philosopher George Santayana comes to mind. It says, "Those who do not learn from the past are doomed to repeat it." On behalf of the Rotary Club of Makati, our lovely aunts, the other Rotarians from the different Rotary clubs in our district, especially to my classmates, the Perfect Vision presidents, our Rotaractors, and all the other guests in attendance, please accept our heartfelt gratitude for taking time in sharing with us your insights on the political landscape and moving forward. Once again, thank you, Attorney Avelino Cruz Jr. Thank you. And as tokens of our appreciation for your time and service, we shall be giving you a copy of our 50th anniversary coffee table book, which contains our club's 50 years of community service and fellowship, together, of course, with a bottle of wine, which you can enjoy while going through the pages of our book. Once again, thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. Maraming salamat, Peter. I hope I'm able to recruit you to work in the government after May 2022. So kailangan natin ng mga bata na may idealista na pumasok sa gobyerno so we can crawl out of this bad situation we're in. Salamat ulit, Peter.
Thank you, sir.
Salamat, Nonong.
At this point, I'd like to turn over the floor to PDG Tony Kila for the awarding. Okay, can I request everyone to turn their cameras on so that we can have a photo op of those who attended this meeting? Thank you very much.
Okay, 1, 2. One more. 1, 2. Okay. Done.
Thank you very much, everyone, for turning on your cameras. Now, can I turn over the floor to our president for the adjournment?
Just turn off.
No. This 8th regular lunch meeting of the Rotary Club of Makati is hereby adjourned.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you.
Congrats, President Peter. Well
Thank you
done.
once again to everyone who attended. A pleasant good afternoon to everybody.
Bye.
Nice event.
Hi, Long.
Hi, Pete.
I just wanted
I'll
to
say
greet
bye.
you.
No, thank you.
Thank you very much. Salamat.
No, salamat ha. Oh,
Salamat.
Hindi ka madadala. Baka maimbita ka pa more often in the coming months.
To campaign.